Welcome into this masterclass. I'm going to help you change your drinking. And so I know if you're in my Facebook group, we have started a dry January. That's so trend. We're so cool. And it's really a bigger picture, right? We want to minimize drinking as our only pleasure in life. We want to minimize drinking so we feel better about ourselves and that we aren't procrastinating on like the more important things or not going after the more important things in our life. And so I'm all about a healthy relationship with alcohol, and I want to help you get your healthy relationship with alcohol as well. So in this masterclass, it's for anybody who wants to desire alcohol less. Right? You don't have to say you want to abstain for life. If that's a goal, great. I welcome that. If you just want to drink less, but not claim sobriety, great. Let's get you there. And then also, it's not just about drinking less. I am a woman who's on a mission to make our lives epic, right? And so when we overdrink, we don't feel epic at all. So we want to also not only just decrease the drinking, but also make sure that you love your life, right? That you're working on the aspects that maybe are driving you to drink. And so we want to work on the underlying problem that's causing our drinking. All right. So what you will learn today and what we'll cover together, I'm going to talk a little bit about alcohol because there has been some new research, and I just want to make sure that we are the most informed, that we know the research that's out there, that we know what alcohol helps us do and what it doesn't help us do. And so we want to talk about truly the newest research and what goes on in the body, common pitfalls coming off a dry January. I want to make sure that you don't fall into any of these. I've got 5 of them. And then what it's going to take to be successful to drink less for the long term. Right? We don't want just dry January just to be a thing that we do 1 month and then we go to heck in a handbasket, right? For the next 11 months. No, we want to make sure that if we've gotten any progress this month, or maybe you haven't gotten as much progress as you want, and that's okay, but we still keep getting progress in the continuous months. And that turns into a lifestyle. That turns into your new habit. And that's what I really want to focus the bulk of this presentation on. All right, so I want to hear from you. What is your goal with alcohol as we move into February and the rest of the year? You know, if you did a dry January, great. If you didn't, great. And now there's this new word that I learned about this year called damp January. If you did one of those, great. But how about February and beyond? What are your goals? Throw them in the Q&A and I want to hear. Share them with me. Yeah, to drink less, great. Anything else? I don't have any goals. Yes, that may be it. Like you just planned on dry January and we don't know what's going to come for February and beyond, right? We just looked at dry January. That sounded great. We figured we could do it. We love a challenge, right? And so, yeah, we haven't really embraced what we're going to do beyond that. And maybe that's why you're here, right? You want to learn what to think about when thinking about the future. Yeah. Ooh, I love it. To be able to take it or leave it. Ooh, that's exactly what I think. And that's who exactly I wanted to be, was a woman who could take it or leave it. That felt like so liberating, right? I could drink a little bit, but I know I can also stop. I can also just leave it. And my life doesn't suffer, right? It's not like I have less fun or I'm less interesting to be around or I need it to prop me up because I can't cope with other things in my life, right? It didn't feel like I had a dependency on it, which felt so good to get to that point because I used to be dependent on it. Yeah. So I love take it or leave it. That really resonates for me. I know that we want to find what resonates for you. Moderate your drinking. Yeah. Very limited during the week and maybe a cocktail or 2 on weekends. Yeah. Yeah. That feels like a healthy amount. Totally agree. A healthier lifestyle. And you know, I think that we as women, I'll just say maybe it's just myself, I put a lot of health in the bucket of health, like food, exercise. But it took me a while to get like my alcohol in that bucket, right? Because it was like I could be healthy over here, but then I had this like side vice going on. And, you know, we'll just say I'm healthy, but yeah, don't look at the drinking. Right. So I love it that we are considering throwing drinking in that bucket, right? Because we know, at least for me and a lot of my clients, when they overdrink, they also overeat, or they snack more than they want to, or they do things, that they just don't want to be doing. Right. So making healthier choices around that. Pick a better way to reward myself. Ooh, we should talk about that. Definitely love that, Rebecca. We are going to look at rewarding ourselves. Do you know that there are hundreds of ways you can reward yourself? Alcohol could be one, but let's open the box to there's so much more out there that we could be rewarding ourselves with. I love that. Yeah, I've been more introspective. Yep. Great. And reframing that drinking isn't the event. Yes, right. I know I used to treat drinking as the main thing. Right? I'm going to the event because alcohol will be there. It's the main activity. Totally get that. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. And some of you are commenting on how dry January is going for you. Yeah. Ooh, I love it. Not being altered by alcohol, right? Sometimes we get this alternative persona that we don't like, or aspects of it we don't like, right? Like forgetting conversations. Nobody likes to forget conversations and then be reminded by people when we go and do things that you were like, oh, we did that. That's kind of embarrassing. I felt. Yeah, definitely take it or leave it. All right. I love it. So remember that, because we're going to come back to that definitely at the end. And I want you to remember what you commented on as we go through this. So thank you. All right. So here's what I wanted. If somebody was to say, you can wave a magic wand, right? Woohoo, wave a magic wand and desire and have what you wanted. Here's how I would have said it back when I was an overdrinker. I just wanted to desire it less. I felt like my desire always won. I just wanted another, and I wanted another, and I wanted another. And I didn't really know how to stop unless I passed out or got so drunk. It's like, I just want to desire it less. And I wanted to go back to the old me where I could have a drink and stop. Right. Or I'd see other people out and they'd have a drink and stop. It was like, what? I just keep going. I just keep ordering more. What is this? What is this? These people that could stop after one. And it doesn't seem to affect, their happiness level or their enjoyment level. And so that was foreign to me for a while. I'd love to have many alcohol-free days. I just remember I would drink week after week after week after month after year. It is like, oh, I just feel chained to this. I want to take breaks. I feel better. My body feels better. My brain feels better. I think better, right? When I take breaks from alcohol. And I wanted to crave alcohol-free days, not just oh, I have to slog through it. I was like, no, this is an alcohol-free day and I'm excited for one. And then also, when I show up around people who are drinking, how do I feel that I'm not pressured to also drink and join in? And maybe I could join in for one drink, but I don't want to feel pressure to keep going, right? And so I wanted all of these things. And I have to say, I'm so thankful I am there now. I have all of that. And this is what I want to have for all of you who want this. And so my story is highly credentialed. I called myself a degree collector. I love learning. I love school, bookworm, probably nerdy, geeky, all of that fun stuff, but I love it. I love learning. I practiced as a pharmacist for over 20 years, and I am a former overdrinker. And I really want you to hear that piece that I'm successful, wildly successful, and I overdrank. I think a lot of times we think that only those other people have problems and nobody understands me, especially if you're a smart woman, you're a go-getter, you like things, you accomplish a lot. And then you've got this side habit that doesn't make sense and doesn't fit that profile, right? And so that always confused me. I'm like, wait, I think I'm the only one that struggles with this. I think I'm the only one that drinks this much. And I didn't know where to go to find my people and a way to cut back that felt good to me, because what was out there didn't feel good to me. It didn't align with what I wanted. I didn't feel like I would be included, right? It just felt like I was on my own island. And so if this resonates with any of you, just know that An overdrinker can be all walks of life. An overdrinker could be smart, right? An overdrinker could be anybody. And it's not a moral failing. It's not that you're weak. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you're crazy. It's not like any of those things. I know we have a lot of stereotypes in our head about what that looks like, but it could be anybody. And so I just want you to know, as a overdrinker, and I'll talk a little bit more about my story, I am on this side and it feels amazing. And so I want you to know that that's possible for you. And I've helped hundreds of women get to their other side of the story too, right? Where they're not in the daily drinking, where they're not in the chronic over drinking mode. So I mentioned I'm a pharmacist, I'm a wife, I have a daughter who's 12. She's lovely. I love coffee. It's my thing. And I have such a passion for empowering, helping, and connecting with women. And that's why I have a program that helps primarily women overcome overing in their life. I do a lot with drinking, but some people come to me because they have overeating issues, they have overthinking issues, overworking issues. And it all stems usually from the same limiting beliefs that we need to dissolve. And so Epic You is my program. It's one of my favorite places to hang out. All right. So I mentioned I used to be what I deemed a normal drinker. Yes, I partied in college. Yes, to me, that was normal. Like, I don't know what, that's part of like the college experience, in my opinion, right? It wasn't until my 30s that I recognized that my drinking was more habitual. Like it did it every weekend. And then it became a lot more than just the weekend. It started to trickle into during the week. And then, it was like the mommy juice. Once my daughter was born, we were meeting up in all the mommy groups and we were all drinking our bottles of wine and bringing wine everywhere with toting along our kids. And it was something I did at work. With clients when they would drink, I was taught where I was working is that you just mirror what they order, right? So they don't feel awkward about what they order, right? So drinking over corporate dinners at night was kind of the thing. And then I noticed I was drinking after work on my own. So it translated into this thing I did every single day. I drank wine every single day for years on end. There would be breaks in there. Yes, there'd be a day here where I wouldn't, or a day I overdid it and then punished myself and say, But here's also what I want you to know. I started selecting activities that involved drinking. I started not wanting to do activities that didn't involve drinking. And if drinking wasn't there, guess what I did? I carried a flask with me in my purse, like to the movie theater, because at the time they were not serving alcohol at the movie theaters I was going to. So, you just got to have alcohol when you watch a movie, right? I mean, alcohol went everywhere with me. It was date night. It was my stress reliever. It was my friend. And I talk about how my 6 a.m. self didn't want to drink. I didn't wake up wanting a drink. I actually had no desire. And I usually was berating myself and hating myself for how I drank the night before. And why can't I just stop? And why can't I be an over drinker or a non-drinker or just control my drinking? But by 6 p.m., she was gone. It's like, who was that woman that got out of bed this morning? That is not how I'm thinking now. Where's my wine? Pour it and pour it quick. So I felt like I had this like dual identity. It was weird. I'm like, I started thinking, am I bipolar? What's going on? And so it started to consume my mental energy because I was thinking about my alcohol consumption from the previous night, the next morning. And I was beating myself up for it and doing that self-loathing and the shame and the embarrassment and not remembering conversations and like, gosh, when am I going to clean this up? To not thinking about it for a little bit. And then somewhere around the afternoon, it starts coming into my head again, like, oh, maybe you need to stop after work to go pick up some alcohol. Yeah, I think we need some alcohol. And then it gets stronger and louder, that voice. So it's a lot of mental chatter, a lot of mental energy. I was thinking about alcohol a part of the day, right? In the morning, in the evening, a little bit creeping in the afternoon. It just felt like it consumed a lot of my mental load. And so I wanted to cut back, and maybe you have tried all the things I have tried, which are great, but they never changed my habit long-term, right? Pacing or slowing myself down, taking a dry January, become February 4th. Within 3 or 4 days, I'm back to the same amount of alcohol, right? Just throwing back the Chardonnay. alternating with water. Great. But it didn't change my craving for it. It didn't change my excessive desire for it, right? It just slowed me down. But in the end, I still wound up consuming the same amount, just over a longer period of time. And so I'd make rules around my drinking. And a lot of times I didn't live up to those rules. I just crash and burn, which made me feel like, wow, why isn't this that important to me? Why can't I seem to like really set this in and set myself straight? Controlling my environment. There would be, I wouldn't allow a lot of alcohol in the house because I couldn't trust myself. I'd probably drain the bottle. So I'd buy small quantities and I keep going to the grocery store like every single day. And then I started getting embarrassed going to the same grocery store every single day. So then I started alternating grocery stores. So nobody said, hey, there's that crazy Chardonnay lady. Why didn't she just buy more? She only comes in and buys 1 or 2 bottles. Like maybe she should buy more and she gets the discount, right? So then I started feeling self-conscious that people would be talking about me. It was a mess, right? It was a mess. For me, it felt too much, right? For me, it just felt like I just wanted to be done with this game. I'm playing with myself. So I want you to also hear in my story, because I think we don't talk about this enough. I had Maya Salovitz on my podcast, and she went into full addiction mode with, the things that she was addicted to. And so I think we hear a lot of that type, but we don't hear enough, I think, of my type, which is I never hit a rock bottom. Thankfully, I guess, but I never hit a rock bottom. There wasn't a DUI. There wasn't like major madness in my household where husband's mad at me, kids mad at me. I did something totally stupid that ruined my career. None of that happened. I was so good at hiding it from others. I was so good at keeping it under wraps. Like you wouldn't even know I was an overdrinker. And so I think we need to really, it could look different, right? I think a lot of times we think we have to have that dramatic event in our life to turn us around. We have to have the diagnoses. We have to have, the liver that's failing. And none of that happened to me. I didn't have labs that scared me, none of that. And I also didn't have extreme motivation to quit. I hear this all the time. Oh, if I can just work up enough motivation, or I'm feeling so motivated in January, I'm worried about my motivation come February. I didn't have extreme motivation. I didn't to quit. I didn't even want to quit. I haven't quit, right? I still drink. What I did do and tune into was my desire to improve how I felt about myself and how I wanted my life to change for the better. That's what got me searching for solutions. I wanted to have a better life and I wanted to feel better about myself. That's it. I know it's not glamorous, but that's what got me started on this journey. And so I found somebody who went through a similar situation. She was successful. I looked at her. She looked smart. I felt that she can resonate and relate to me. So I hired her. I'm like, I want to get to where you got to. You stopped over drinking. That's what I want. And so from there, she was my first domino, as Joe Polish calls them, the dominoes, the people that come into our life that help us knock something off our plate, like help us through a problem. And so she was the first domino that started the other dominoes that helped me get to where I am today. And what she taught me, I teach a lot, but I teach a ton more because I've learned from other people on how to get and fine tune, because the lady I learned from doesn't drink at all. And I wanted to learn how to still have some alcohol in my life. All right. So let me just take a few moments and talk through some of the latest research on alcohol and how it affects the body. So we're informed to make great decisions, right? Because you're smart, you're intelligent, you're here. And I want you to know how alcohol affects the body with the latest research. All right, so we have this decision-making part of our brain. It resides in our frontal lobe, which is the colored section here, the prefrontal cortex. This part of our brain helps us make decisions and it helps us execute those decisions. So not just make them, but stick to them, right? Now, when we drink, our entire brain starts to atrophy, starts to shrink. We start to lose the capabilities of the brain, right? A lot of us know this. We can lose motor coordination. We slur our speech, right? We know it affects the brain. All right, so we get this shrinkage of the brain of the white matter. It also starts to affect the gray matter long term, but certainly the white matter. And the white matter is really important for communicating neurons to talk to each other, particularly around emotions, particularly around our movements and our memory. So just think about it. When the more you drink, right, the more your memory goes and the less coordinated you become, right? All makes sense. We also found, right, that there's cognitive decline that starts to mimic early onset dementia in long-term drinkers. And the brain begins to atrophy. Now, what I also want to point out is that this starts to happen as little as 1 drink per day, right? We used to think, oh, it was for people who really slugged it back, but this actually starts to happen with chronic drinking. So somebody who drinks every single day, just 1 drink, right? So I don't want you to think, oh, there's only destruction when we really increase our drink count. I want to show you that we're finding a lot more evidence now that how destructive this could be on our brain as little as 1 drink a day. Okay, so this just came out in 2022, that 1 alcoholic drink a day is linked to reduced brain size, right? I talked about it shrinks the brain, right? And then, of course, the brain doesn't function as normally as it should. And that's probably why you feel brain fog the next day, why we have headaches, right? It's changing and hurting our brain. So just check this out. The research using a data set of more than 36,000 adults revealed that going from 1 drink to 2 drinks a day was associated with changes in the brain equivalent to aging 2 years. Aging, right? So it's aging our brain quicker and quicker the more we drink. What else have we found out in just the past couple of years, right? We know that alcohol affects the brain because it gets through the blood-brain barrier. It starts to work on the neurons. It starts to demyelinate them. And so they can't communicate as well. And brain shrinkage that we talked about. We know that it has a lot of effects on the liver. We're pretty aware that it could cause cirrhosis, but we're finding out that it also has a lot of effects on the gut. And it leads to dysbiosis. It leads to leaky gut syndrome, right? So it causes immune compromise because 70% of our immune system resides in this gut microbiome. And so if it's a toxin in there, right, it's going to kill off our immune cells. So it makes us prone to infections, right? And so we're learning a lot, and it makes us prone to inflammation because it causes inflammation, which I'll talk about here in a minute. This is a great paper. Well, I love it because it talks about all the neuropharmacology of it. It activates our immune system because, of course, our body sees it as a stressor. So it starts activating our immune system. So we start feeling like we're fighting a cold, right? Also, it leads to listlessness, right? That lack of pleasure in our life. How many of you drink and you're like, I don't really derive the pleasure of it that I used to? So we're finding a lot more of how it affects our body. It's not just the brain and the liver, but also our body as a whole. All right. So I don't want to spend a ton of time here other than to talk about that this substance is not normal for our body, right? It's a toxin. It's foreign. Our body attacks it. Our body finds it to be a stressor. And I want to stop there because a lot of people drink because they say I'm stressed. And I just want that feeling of relaxation. Yes, you'll feel like you're relaxing, but I want to tell you that your body is breaking it down as a foreign thing that's causing more stress. So what does that mean? It raises cortisol. It raises your adrenaline, right? And so it causes increases in blood pressure, risk of AFib and cardiomyopathy. So there's a lot of effects that are just not based in the liver. And so I just want to point those out, including glucose dysregulation. So weight gain comes from that. Type 2 diabetes can come from that when we can't metabolize our glucose and use it and store it appropriately. And we know that it causes sleep disruption terribly, right? We're up at 3 a.m. We've got the racing heart, right? We get that anxiety the next day. And so just talking about all of this. I just want us to know how alcohol affects our system. However, how do most of us feel about it? We're like, okay, that's great, but we put wine on a pedestal, right? We have these rose-colored glasses that we think it's this reward. It feels amazing, but just think of all the things it does to our body. And we still think this way despite the latest evidence. Do you know why? Because facts don't lie. And look at the statistics. Recently, the statistics, alcohol use among women have been increasing over the last decade. And because of COVID, mostly, right, in 2022, alcohol consumption in the US spiked, with heavy drinking increasing by 41% among women. And if you want to know why women drink, primarily it's because they want to regulate their mood. They don't like their current emotions, and so they want to numb them, or they think their current emotions are okay and they want to elevate them, right? So they want that mood regulation, right? And I talked about on my podcast how the most common reasons or moods or feelings that people have that they want to change and they go to alcohol for are sadness and anxiety or restlessness. And then also to connect with others. We think as women that it's going to enhance social relationships. All right. So now that's out of the way. None of that is presented as anything to make us feel bad. It's just to look at the research. It's just to look at the science so that we can make educated decisions going forward. Pitfalls. I'm going to run through these pretty quick because you will see the opposite of that becomes how you want to think about February and beyond. It becomes your success story. It becomes your success tools that you're going to start implementing for your life. So pitfalls. Some people don't even know where they're going. You ask them after a dry January, what's next? They say, I don't know. I'm just going to feel it out. I don't know. I don't have a goal, right? Or my goal is to drink less. But that's not concrete enough for the brain. The brain can't really hang on to that. So think about, what are you trying to achieve? A lot of you love that terminology, take it or leave it, right? So we'll talk about that as we get to that part of the presentation. But think about, what is it that you're trying to get to? So where are you going? And if you don't know, you won't know if you're successful. How will you know you arrived? It's like getting on a plane and not knowing where the airplane is going. It's like, I don't know, I'm just getting on a plane, right? But I don't know where it's going because I don't know the destination, right? We have to know where we're going. And I'll talk about why that's so important here in a minute. So if we don't know where we're going, say I'm here in San Diego and I want to go up to Los Angeles, right? And if I don't know my destination, I'm just going to be walking around aimless and clueless. My brain will be. Now, if I know where I want to go, I say I want to go to Los Angeles, I've got to know how to get there. Am I taking a car? I can fly there, right? I could take a puddle jumper, right? I could take the Amtrak or the coaster, right? How am I going to get there? I could take a bus, right? So we need a plan. You need a plan on how you're going to get to your goal. So a lot of people don't do these steps, which is why they wind up like I did come February 4th. It's like, whoop, here I am again, back to a bottle and a half of Chardonnay every night. So we'll slip back into old patterns unless the brain knows what the new habit we are trying to build. All right, so maybe we're not even working on the right problem. And I will tell you, and if you listen to my podcast, you know I talk about this so much. Drinking is not the primary problem. It's the subsequent problem. We got to get to problem number 1 before we can work on problem number 3, which is the drinking. We got to look at, why are we drinking? It could be limiting beliefs. It could be old beliefs that we don't want to think anymore. It could be our marriage is a mess. It could be the kids, I can't control them, right? We got to fix what's really driving the drinking. And it's not alcohol. It's not. It's something else going on. Pitfall number 4, you don't have the right tools. You don't know how to fix the marriage. You don't know how to fix the kids. You don't know, and I'm not meaning fix and in there broken. You just don't know how to change it. You don't know what to do differently. You don't know what tools to use. So a lot of people just don't have the tools. Or maybe you have 1 or 2 tools, but you're not using it. It's not the tool for the right job, right? It's like like I say here, right? You have a hammer, and that's great if you want to pound something into something, but what if you want to pluck something out, right? And don't say the back of the hammer. I know that could pull out a nail, but what if you really needed pliers? What if there was a better tool out there? Yeah. And so having the right tools helps you get to your goal quicker and with more ease. And then this is key. Number 5, not having the right support, not having people who understand you, or a place that you can get ideas, get the tools, having a non-judging community for support, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to go along and you're going to slip up. It happens to everybody. It happened to me multiple times. I slipped back into old ways. It's how did I get back up? And I found that when I had support, it was so much easier, right? Because somebody came to me with a tool, or I went to somebody and asked, what can I do in this situation? This has happened. Now, a lot of people think that they don't need outside help. And just question if that's toxic independence, because I will tell you, anybody needs help. Everybody needs help in their life, right? Whether you're building a business, you need help. Whether you're raising kids, you need help, right? There are points that get sticky in a marriage. You need help. It's not a bad thing to need help. It's a great thing to need help, because then, especially if you reach out for the help, because then you can solve the problem. If something goes wrong with my car, I can't fix it. Something goes wrong with my heart, I can't fix it. I need help. I need a mechanic to fix my car. I need a cardiologist to tell me what's going on with the heart, right? I can't fix those things. So we're not supposed to live so independently that we don't need other people. We need help. And when things get bad and when we can't figure it out ourselves, we look to people who can help. All right, so here's how to be successful once February hits and beyond, or from here on out, right? So those are the tools. We're going to talk about them. 1, you got to get clear on who you want to be and the destination you're going. I wanted to be a woman who can take it or leave it. That was my destination. I needed to know where I was going. I followed people who abstained, and that got me so far, but it didn't get me all the way, because they didn't know how to introduce alcohol back in, because they didn't do it. They didn't drink. So I'm like, okay, great that you lessened my desire for alcohol. Great that I've learned these tools, but now I need tools where I can be around it in my life, where I could take it and I can leave it. And I'm happy with both, right? So I needed to determine what destination I wanted to get to, where I was going, and why it's important, why that was important, because I was going to feel better. My life was going to improve. My parenting improved. And then all these other things started to improve in my life that I wasn't even expecting, right? When you make that one positive change, you know, there's a ripple effect in so many areas of your life that you just didn't see before. But now that you experience them, it's like, wow, that really did change. So you're not just changing your drinking for the sake of changing your drinking. Changing your drinking for the sake of changing so many other things in your life. So I always like to think, how would your life change? And write that down, right? Start taking notes. If you brought a pen, great, and paper, start taking notes. Where are you going, right? And how will that change your life? And I love thinking about, I'm a mindful drinker. I write about it. I want other people to know the tools. I want to empower other women to be here if that's where they want to be. And if you want to abstain, great, abstain and be sober. You know, I'm just not about those labels for me, but if they work for you, fantastic. So once you know you want to be someone who can take it or leave it, then you want to plan. How are you going to get there, right? What are the steps to get there? If I want to go from San Diego to Los Angeles, how do I want to get there? How fast do I want to get there, right? That's a big one. If I want to get there quick, maybe I fly. So you want to think about, all right, I'm going there. What's my plan? I work with some women who say, I can't imagine alcohol not being in my life. Can we just take this slow? And I say, absolutely. We can take it slow. You don't have to just cut it out right away, right? Any amount of alcohol that you decrease in your life is progress. It's less alcohol in the brain, in the body, doing all those things we don't want it to do. And I will take progress any day over no progress. So what I've learned from Maya Salovitz is meet people where they're at. If you want to go slow, go slow. There's nothing wrong with that. So what do you need to be successful, right? Think about that. You know what helps you be successful. You've probably tried cutting back numerous times and you know some things that help you be successful, and you know things that are, you still got to learn tools because you're not successful. And so lay that out for yourself. How are you working on the underlying problem, right? Maybe you have some limiting beliefs about yourself. Maybe you have anxiety, and this is a way to calm the anxiety. Well, let's look at tools to help your anxiety, right? Other than using alcohol for that. And here's a big one. How are you going to get through the night if you don't drink, right? That was a question like swimming in the back of my head. If somebody told me not to drink, it's like, okay, how am I going to get through the night? I don't know how I'm going to get through the night. Yeah. So you want to lay out a very detailed plan. Most people's plans are like, I'm not going to drink tonight. It's like, okay, well, what happens when the desire comes? What happens when it's a bad day? How are you going to handle the emotions? How are you going to handle, right? All the things. And so you want to think about this ahead of time and have a plan. Because I want to help you drink less for success. And that means success in all aspects of your life. You know what a lot of people do? They drink less and they feel worse. That's terrible. That's why they go back to drinking. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to sit here and listen to these kids just yell and scream, and I'm not drinking. I don't think I like my life. No, this is not what we're doing, right? It's to drink less and then be successful. If you're not feeling strong in your parenting, let's boost up those skills. If you don't feel good at a party without a glass in your hand, let's boost up those skills, right? Everything's skill-based. I'm all about getting results. And okay, so most people will know step 1 and step 2. And they will get that down. And I will tell you, that's part of the game. I'll tell you, step 3 is a big piece of the puzzle. You cannot do step 1 and step 2 and not do step 3 and get success. I just haven't seen it. Setting out a plan, right? Having it all, but then you don't follow it. What happens when you don't follow it? What happens when things happen? What happens when life happens? What happens when things get stressful, right? What happens when really painful things happen or really emotional things happen? Yeah. And so number 3 is upgrading your mental fitness. So why I say it's mental fitness, because if you look at how alcohol, right, comes into our life and why we want it so much, it's all in the mind. We over desire it. And if you think about problem drinking, all problem drinking, or I have an issue with drinking or a problem with drinking, or if you want to even use the terminology, which I don't like to use, an alcoholic or addicted, I don't think it's necessary that we use those words. They're kind of triggering. So I just don't generally use those words. So if you have an issue or a problem with drinking, all that means is that it's a maladaptive behavior. That's it. And all behavior stems from the brain, right? I can't move this hand if I didn't have a brain. My brain communicates to my arm to move the hand, right? So everything starts in the mind. And that's where the root of the problem we got to get to, right? We got to fix what limiting beliefs are there. We got to dissolve them. We got to eliminate them. We got to change them. That's what I mean by fix. You're not broken. It's just there's limiting beliefs going on or things going on mentally for you that we just need to change. That's it. That's it. And most people can do the other steps, but this is the most challenging one for a lot of people, is dissolving those limiting beliefs, dissolving that stuff that keeps them drinking. So it could be from too much stress. So I have a whole module inside Epic U where you learn to transform your stress. So you don't run to the fridge or the cabinet and pour alcohol, right? We don't want to use it as a coping mechanism in our life. We can use it to enjoy it for pleasure, but we don't want to use it as a coping mechanism. You know why? Because you'll always want more. And we don't want to create that pattern in the brain. And so you can't cope with something, great. Let's get other tools that help you cope with it. You're ruminating. I have a module on overthinking and how women who just spin out in overthinking and how that module can help them. It's just a habit. Great. We can break habits really easily. Got a module on that. Trauma. Okay. Work with somebody who's trauma informed and can help you through that trauma if it just keeps cycling back for you. I'm trauma informed, but a lot of people want to go to a specialist in that area. Yes, because it will change your life. Not just your drinking, it will change your life. So Lisa, when she first came to me, she was saying, I'm harboring the fear I was an alcoholic. She would say that, I'm an alcoholic. I'm like, let's look at your drinking. What if you're not an alcoholic? She's like, oh, I don't know, right? She's like, I've given so much power over to alcohol. I said, yeah, so have I. But I also went back and claimed my power. Do you want to go back and claim your power? She's like, well, yeah. And so when she started seeing how she can claim her power, she was like, this is working. This is amazing. And her life radically changed. She was not working. She was despondent with her kids. She was in a loveless marriage. She just had no interest, no libido, no interest. She said, I'm on the brink of losing everything. And I said, okay. She was more of a bottoming out story. And I said, let's just bring it all back. And within a few months, she thought about alcohol completely different. She got a job. She sold her first screenplay in months. She hadn't been able to write one for years. She finally started writing it and sold it before it was even done and been asked to start casting it and wanted to be one of the actresses in it from the person who bought it from her. And she started loving on her husband again. Her kids started calling her. They were adult children. They started calling her and loving on her. And she repaired so many of her relationships just from taking this step with her drinking. Radically changed her life. All right, number 4, what also you want to do, a lot of people love rules. And I say, use the rules when they work. Some people love it that they don't drink and drive. That's a rule. I don't drink and drive, or I have one, and then I just wait an hour or two, and then before I get behind the wheel, right? That's a rule, and they stick to it. Perfect. That's a rule that's working. But do you have rules in your life where you don't stick to them? Right? So some people like, I never drink at work or around work, or I can limit it around work, but I can't limit it when I'm in my house, or I can't limit it when I'm out with my friends. I always go overboard. I said, okay, let's not use the rules. Now let's use tools. Your brain needs something, right? So let's use tools. So what tools do you use to manage triggers? That's a big one. You feel triggered to drink. What tool are you using? I talk about some in the podcast. Drink Less Lifestyle. Tune in there. I talk about tools all the time, always wanting to empower you with tools so we minimize needing drinking or feeling like we need it. And are you really addressing the underlying problem? Right? Because we don't want to just keep using tools where we feel like I'm using this tool, but I really want the alcohol, because we haven't addressed the underlying issue. Okay. So we really want to make sure that we're addressing the underlying issue. And usually there's not just one, there's usually a few. And then how will you get back on track when you slip up? Because I want to tell you, of the hundreds of women I've helped, I think I've seen one not slip up. Everybody else does. It's normal. It's expected. You're learning a new way of being, right? So when you slip up, how are you going to get back on track? And then what will you do when others around you drink? I put in a picture here of me celebrating lunch with some of my girlfriends this past December. Some of them drink, some of them don't. And I decided not to drink there. I didn't feel the desire. I wasn't craving it. I didn't want it. So I ordered water. Nobody triggered me, right? I just totally deconditioned other people's drinking having to trigger mine. It just doesn't happen. And so what about for you, right? I know a lot of people go into social situations and then they don't pay attention. They're back to drinking their old ways, right? So I want you to know that it's possible that you could go and hang out with other people who drink, and it doesn't have to be a problem, and it doesn't have to ignite your desire. I like to teach a tool a lot called react versus respond. So when we react, right, we're just impulsive. And the more we drink, the more impulsive we get. So we're just impulsive, right? We just react. It's like, yeah, he's pouring drinks. Yeah, somebody brought me a drink. Yeah, she's drinking. I'm going to join in, right? We're just very reactionary. My kid is screaming. I'm just going to drink, right? It's reactionary. And one tool you can use is to say, do I want to be reactionary, which is not going to get me the results I want? Or do I want to be responsive, meaning I respond to the situation that's aligned with my values? It's aligned with my goals. It's aligned with who I want to be as a person. It's aligned with feeling healthy and being healthy. I know that was somebody who wrote in, wanted to feel aligned with and more healthy in their life. When you can respond from that place, wow, that tool alone helps so many women from going from reactionary to being responding or responsive. And that's where the term drink responsibly, right, comes from. And so I love this quote by Bob Proctor. When you react, you are giving away your power. When you respond, you are staying in control of yourself. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes to become a woman who can take it or leave it, is controlling yourself. One tool that you can use is to pause for 5 seconds. Just pause, right? It will take you from being reactionary to being more responsive, and it calms your nervous system. So just taking a pause is a huge tool that you can use when it comes to your drinking. A lot of women come to me because they have anxiety. They're high performers, they're high achievers, they're always on go, right? They're driven. And so they have challenges with relaxing at night, right? Like, I need a drink to relax. I always feel revved up. I always have all this energy, right? They might just say, I just have all this energy, right? So that might be a form of restlessness. And I just call all of that feeling anxiety. It's just anxiousness in our body, right? We're kind of buzzing like a little buzzy bee, and we're just running around doing all the things until we drop, right? So we go from like full on to like poof, right? Just down for the count, meaning tired. Well, we can change that energy in the body. And so I have ways and tools that I teach inside Epic U to lower the anxiety, right? Because that's what you want to learn, to manage it, because it's going to be there. It's going to come. We don't eliminate anxiety. That's impossible. But we want to learn to manage it. So more coping skills and more tools, so we're not relying on alcohol to do that for us. I went from drinking 4 to 6 drinks per night to drinking 2 drinks per week, and I don't even miss it. I can't believe it. And this change has, not surprisingly, made a huge difference in my relationship with my 2 children and husband. I was down on life, and now I have rediscovered my joy. Yes, long-term drinkers, I tell you, we get diminishing returns of joy on that alcohol. It's like, yeah, the first glass feels great, and then everything else after that, it's not feeling as great. And so reigniting that joy is absolutely critical, because you feel more alive. And that's what's going to fuel you to be that drinker that just doesn't need it, right? You drink less. Okay, the last one, as we know from a lot of other problems and conditions, it's so wonderful to have a support network, somebody who understands you, somebody who's been there before and has come through it, somebody who can talk with you, somebody who can give you tools to get through the things that are difficult, right? So who do you turn to for support? Some of us don't have people in our lives to turn to. We feel guilty talking about it with others. We may not feel safe talking about it with our friends, because we're like, oh, well, they drink even more than we do, so I don't know if I should bring this up. I don't want them to think I'm projecting onto them or telling them they have to change their drinking. Sometimes my friends would tell me, oh, don't worry about it. You don't drink that much. And so they poo-poo it. And so it's like, oh, and they don't really give you tools or helpful ways to actually manage through the beginning parts, which is the hardest part. Once you get momentum going, once you see that you can do it, becomes easier. But that first couple of weeks to months can be really difficult for people, right? Because they're learning and they don't know if they're doing it right. And so they fall or they slip up, and then they berate themselves. which doesn't lead to long-term success. And so inside Epic You, we have this lovely group of women. We're all so supportive. We're non-judgmental. We help each other up all the time, right? We just want to be there for each other and see each other win. Epic You is like a safe sisterhood. I always feel supported and loved when I get down on myself. With the coaching and the tools, I'm able to get back on track and not berate myself and sit in self-wallowing. This community and support is priceless. So whether you drink or not, right? We're not judging the drinking. We're just helping you with tools so that you can control your drinking to the way that you want to, right? So that you could be the type of drinker you want. And I have to say, I love this quote also from Maya Salovitz. I learned so much from her book. Her book is called Undoing Drugs. If you want to pick it up, it came out, I think, in 2020. So good. You can't punish addiction out of someone. How true is that? And how much do we try to punish ourselves out of drinking, right? So I would just tweak that and say, you can't punish wanting alcohol out of you. You can't. It has to be a different learning process. It has to start in the brain. It has to start in the mind. That's where the whole issue begins. And so we can't, and if we punish ourselves, we just feel worse about ourselves, which means we want to just escape those feelings. So we turn to more alcohol to do so. Sherry, I cannot tell you how impactful your program has been. I really have been able to do something that I've tried for years to do, cut back on my alcohol consumption and be mindful of how it impacts my body. I've come so far and I can't express how happy I am. Thank you, Beth. And I have to tell you, Beth's been to numerous support groups before mine. And just wasn't making the progress that she wanted. And so when she came here and she saw this lovely community, she felt so supported. And we started dissolving a lot of her limiting beliefs that were holding her back. All right. So how would your life be different if you didn't overdrink? I mean, just think about that, ladies. How different would it be? Yeah. Anybody going to comment? Let me look. People are commenting. Yeah, I tried all of everything that you tried to cut back too. Yeah. How would your life be different? I mean, it's just not about the alcohol. That's what I want you to see. I want you to see how much bigger your life can get, how you can feel so amazing about yourself without needing alcohol. So if you are going into February and beyond, and you think, I'm just going to be controlling the alcohol, right? I'm going to be doing rules around the alcohol. I'm going to be saying I get to drink here and just not there, right? And I'm just doing a drink plan, which I support doing a drink plan absolutely as one of the tools. That's only going to give you limited progress because ultimately it's not about the alcohol, right? The alcohol is not jumping out of the bottle or out of the can into the glass and jumping down your esophagus, right? What it's about is learning how to manage you when alcohol's around or when it's not around. And when you can manage yourself, you become at peace with alcohol because it's like you could take it or leave it, right? And so that is really what I want you to hear, because I know a lot of us spend so much time on the external, the alcohol, right? Remember, I talked about everything I tried, the pacing, alternating with water. I'd say, okay, I'm not going to drink right at 5. I'll start drinking at 6 or 7 p.m. Maybe I'll drink less, right? I was trying to control the alcohol. It's so much bigger than that. It's learning how to manage your emotions. It's learning how to change your thinking about it, right? That's what's going to set you up for long-term success. And so I'm going to spend a few moments talking about Epic You and how it can help you become a woman who drinks less and can take it or leave it and live a life you love, right? Alcohol is a small piece. We focus on everything, including the alcohol, right? So alcohol is a small piece, but remember, we got to get you feeling great about you. And that's where you then develop this confidence. And then you develop healthy habits, right? Because we teach you with those healthy habits and tools as well. So it's a program that will help you understand why it is you overdrink. What are your triggers? Or maybe you overeat, or maybe you overthink, or maybe you do all three, right? Or maybe you overwork, or maybe you over Facebook, or maybe you're on Netflix too much, right? So we look at why you're doing that. And then we understand what benefit you're getting from that. Like if alcohol is providing you relaxation and that's what you need, well, let's look at other ways to get you relaxation. That doesn't mean you have to go to alcohol for it. If you have triggers, we want to overcome those, right? If you get triggered because you go out with friends and they're all drinking and your brain is saying, I feel deprived, I can't drink. That's not true, right? You can drink, right? So let's look at what's holding you back. Let's look at why you feel deprived, right? I don't feel deprived when I hang out with people who are drinking, even if I'm the only one drinking water. I don't feel deprived at all because I've done the mental work, right? So, and then you want to look at tools to change your drinking. I mentioned drink plan. That's one of the tools we look at because we got to track progress, right? We got to make sure that the tools are working. And so we want to measure and monitor our progress. And then we change desire. Like desire is just in the mind. It's crazy, but it's there, right? We can desire something less. And I could teach you how to do that. All right. So another testimonial from Susan. She couldn't accomplish it on her own. She's tried everything. And now she just feels completely free and able to be around it and not have the pull and not have all the triggers she used to have. We deconditioned a lot of those. So results to expect: reduce desire for alcohol. I'll teach you how to reduce your desire. You want to feel satisfied when you drink after one? Great. You want to feel satisfied if you don't drink? Great. You can get there too. A lot of people, if they want to lose weight, they learn the tools to lose weight. Some people just lose weight by drinking less as well, right? Because it doesn't have all that hormonal aspect of the insulin and the glucose that's causing weight gain and then increased snacking and all the things that become because of it. And you remember conversations and have more joy. All right. So what do you get when you join the program? You get unlimited access on demand to 35 plus courses. So if you already know you want to manage your anxiety better, start there, right? Start learning the tools on how to do that so we can become less reliant, less dependent on alcohol. You get unlimited coaching and support. We have a Slack channel. It's lovely, our community there. Unlimited accountability and guidance. I'm there to answer any questions, any tools. I have another coach that coaches with me in there that helps. We do live coaching calls with me. There's bonus content. There's bonus calls as well per month. So just giving you a flavor of some of the topics and courses. I kept developing courses because women were like, well, I need help with this. My relationship's a mess. Help me with relationships. So great. Signed a course around that. I need to manage my anxiety. Great. Let's help you get to manage your anxiety and not become reliant on alcohol for that. Like stress. Some people are like, well, I don't know. I don't have pleasure unless I drink. Okay, well, let's talk about getting you some more joy and pleasure into your life and what that looks like. And then my signature program, Drink Less Lifestyle, is in there. It teaches you all the things about breaking habits, especially around alcohol. So tons more. Emotional management's a big one as well. People can't manage their emotions, and so they want to learn tools to be able to do that. You'll feel like a new person. I get this a lot. I feel so good, right? Because I'm not constantly feeding myself alcohol, which makes me feel terrible, especially the next morning. And people lose weight. So you get access to all of this, right? The videos, all the workbooks, all the content, the bonus lectures, unlimited coaching and support in our Slack community, daily accountability and guidance, plus those live calls with me every month. And you see the total value of that is over $5,000. And your investment is $249 a month for all of these tools to learn to become a woman who can take it or leave it with alcohol and other things. And so if you're interested in this feels good to you and you're ready to get started, you can sign up on my website at epicu.com/epicu.